We don't talk. We say very little to each other. He's selfish. Only his needs are a priority. For better, for worse. Let's talk about it. Hello everyone, my name is Tania and welcome back to my channel. There are many factors that cause conflict in a marriage, such as anger, arguments about finances, how to manage the money, and how to spend it. And so today I'm just going to cover two of the many factors that cause conflict in a marriage. And those two are selfishness and poor communication. Marriage is work. Marriage is tough. Marriage is a full-time job. It requires us to learn, grow, and compromise. Being married for 20 plus years, I've discovered in this journey of learning each other, growing together, developing together, sometimes couples will drift away from one another because of internal and external conflict. Internal conflicts are disrespect, stubbornness, pride, selfishness, which we'll cover in this video. Addictions such as lust, pornography, drugs, and alcohol. Believe it or not, an internal conflict can be a nonchalant attitude, someone who's not interested about the family anymore, or laziness. Someone in the marriage has stopped achieving goals and contributing to the family's well-being. These are just some of the internal conflicts, but there's many more. Examples of external conflicts are inappropriate connections with the opposite sex, when there are private calls, private conversations, or private meetings. Another external conflict would be an extended family interference, when the family members attack one of the spouses or damages the character of that spouse. Two other external conflicts are dishonest deals, when the spouse is living a separate life that only benefits him. The other one is mental abandonment. This is external because the spouse has checked out of the marriage, making the partner feel undesired, left behind, insecure, and thrown away. They compare you with other women. I'm talking through a wife perspective. They compare you with other women. They show interest in other women by how they interact with them. It can be openly or it can be also hidden. And these women can be at their workplace, at church, yes, also at church, in the choir, or whatever it may be, but it can be at church, and also the grocery stores and other venues. The season for better and for worse is not just a rough patch in the marriage that you can solve with conflict resolution. It's full-blown betrayal. This has festered for such a long time and has taken over the marriage. It's a constant state of betrayal. So I'm angry. I'm humiliated. I am disappointed. I'm embarrassed at the person that you have become, really. You are embarrassed at the person that they have become because you have noticed a secret demeanor about them, that they're creeping in the marriage, that they're creeping inside of the house. What do I mean by this? For example, their phone is always face down. They're taking calls outside of the house. They're taking calls in other rooms of the house. They are also guarding their laptops. And also there's a new interest in social media and chat rooms. So in your anger, you may feel that I have the right to do anything because of his selfish attitude, because of his unhealthy choices in the marriage. Why keep hurting? Why keep feeling this ongoing pain when I can just walk away? When I can just end it and start a new path for my life? So yes, I do have options to walk away. I do have options to seek love somewhere else. But 1 Corinthians 10:23 tells me that, yes, I do have the right to do anything, but not everything is beneficial. Not everything is constructive. So that brings us to this. Is it worth it? It's only worth it if you want to be true to yourself. Is your marriage important to you? Are you the kind of person who seek hope before making a decision? Now, for better, for worse, it's worth staying because you see a glimpse of good between you and your husband. You're not staying because of the kids. You're not staying because of the house. You're not even staying because of the life that you built. You're staying because you see good and you see a lifetime of togetherness. So we can talk about selfishness and poor communication. How we respond to the conflicts in our marriages will either frustrate or improve how we live in that marriage. Conflict number 1, selfishness. Selfishness is when one or both partners choose to live as though his or her needs deserve top consideration. When your partner or both of you put your needs above the others. A relationship with a selfish person means that they extract your love and your affection without giving back in return. They think they are needed more than they need you. They're usually people pleasers and hide their dark side very well. They are consistently self-involved and self-centered, not likely to be very responsive to your needs. They put their own goals ahead of yours. Their needs have to be first majority of the time. Either they go to school first or venture out to a new opportunity first. They are uncaring and neglectful to your needs and other people's needs. It is difficult for them to realize that they're wrong, even when they say it. It's easily forgotten. When they are bored with their lives, or they don't find meaning in their lives, or they're just not satisfied with life, they blame you and the environment around them. And there's a need for them to look for a catfish. You know that show on TV, Catfish, for something or someone to revive them and get them out of their dissatisfaction. So these are just some of the characteristics of selfish people. So what do you do when you live in a marriage with someone who is selfish? Now, number 1, you are broken emotionally, spiritually, physically, intellectually, and mentally. And so you need wholeness. And the only person who can give you wholeness is God. Psalm 62:1 says, "Truly my soul finds rest in God. My salvation comes from him." Sozo is a Greek word that translates to salvation, which in totality, it means wholeness. So in order for you to find wholeness, you need to turn to God's wisdom. And so the wisdom of God tells us that in order to find this wholeness that we're looking for, we need to create boundaries with that stressful situation, which is called detachment. Here are wisdom keys to wholeness. Number 1, detachment. Detach yourself from that hurtful and painful situation in your marriage, the unhealthy choices that he's making in the marriage, that selfish attitude, the secret behavior, because that behavior is draining you mentally and physically. What you need to do now is self-care. So what needs to uplift you again? Is it taking a walk in the neighborhood? Is it starting a workout routine? Is it grabbing coffee by yourself or with a friend? Or maybe what you need to do is sit down and write your goals in life. What do you need to do to get to your purpose? What do you need to change in your life to start your purpose, to start contributing to the family? Write down your goals and vision for your life. Start brainstorming to see what you can contribute that would add value to someone's life. Number 2, confront. Confront the issue at hand. This time around is selfishness. So you're confronting them because you want to tell them how you feel. But this has to be done with wisdom. So the approach should be truthful and without blame. Don't go to them by telling them who they are. Don't go to them in anger or telling them how disappointed you are, or even calling them names. It is not going to end well. You have to remember that a selfish person does not like when somebody does not agree with them. So they're gonna react in a negative way. Confront the issue using a kind approach. Make sure that it's the right time and the right place. You can probably do it in the evening when the kids are asleep, if you do have kids, but you know exactly what I mean by that. When there's quietness and when there's good vibes, okay? So when you're confronting, let them know how you feel about the marriage, what you have noticed in the house, also the questionable behavior that you have noticed. You can also express all of that. Number 3, acceptance. Accept that there is a problem. Accept that there is selfishness in the house. The spirit of selfishness is in the house. Accept it even if they deny it, even if there's gaslighting. Because once you accept it, then the problem is exposed. When the problem is exposed, you're able to go to God and tell him, this is the problem and I can't handle it. I need help. Accepting it gives room for God to come in and handle the situation. Acceptance gives room for God to work in your marriage. Remember, I said this in previous videos. I said that God will change you, will change me first before he changes the situations. Why? Because he's going to work through you to change that situation. He will give you the instructions to change that marriage. Here's a prayer that you can pray after asking God for help in your marriage. God, help us to not be cold and uninterested with each other. Change our habits of neglect and busyness. Enable us to be warm, tender, compassionate, and loving. I give you room to fix my marriage through your wisdom. Conflict number 2, poor communication. Any divorce lawyer will tell you that one of the most common reasons that a marriage fails is poor communication. A marriage without effective communication and without addressing the issue will eventually crumble. Here are the symptoms of poor communication for both verbal and nonverbal communication and the wisdom keys to wholeness. Number 1, verbal communication. Poor verbal communication tunes out each person's wants, needs, and desires. When this happens, dismissive behavior enters the relationship. How does this look like? When there is poor communication in a marriage, you have replaced listening with talking. When there is plenty of talking happening, no one is listening. When there is no listening, you have already assumed your partner's feelings. So this enters into a dismissive environment in the home. So there is no acknowledgement. There's a lack of a true response. Here is a wisdom key. Silence is a weapon. I am going to share a verse that helps me keep silent in certain situations. Psalm 141:3 says, "Set a guard over my mouth, Lord. Keep watch over the door of my lips." And so you can pray that over yourself. So someone must stop sharing the information so that effective communication can be created. And that someone is you. Yes, I know. It's me too. Because now we know that God changes us first before he changes the situation. So when your spouse is expressing how he feels about a situation, or unfortunately, if he is vomiting these negative thoughts about how he feels to you, keep silent. Keep silent, because the power of silence creates change. It creates change because it shows that you're not fighting him. You will have feedback later when he's finished, and you will let him know that you do not accept what he says if it's demeaning to your spirit. And it creates change because it shows that you appreciate what he has to say, even though it's not good. It creates change because it says that he has the right to his opinion, and he has the right to express how he feels, and then you will get your turn. So all of this will create an environment of change to an effective communication. So you care about how they feel even when they're wrong, because you're listening. And so listening opens the door for healing the relationship, preventing severe damage to your marriage. Number 2, nonverbal. Now, we have learned that communication is a crucial part in the relationship. Not only verbal communication, but nonverbal communication as well. Nonverbal communication is a positive and negative body language, maintaining eye contact, facial expression, and other gestures. Here are examples of negative nonverbal communication in a marriage. When you're having a conversation with your spouse, there is lack of eye contact. Your spouse might be looking somewhere else, or might be organizing things around them. They might have their back turned to you and engaging in other activities. They might be looking at their phone, looking at the TV, or looking at the laptop. This can be dangerous because disengagement sips in the marriage. When disengagement sips in the marriage, someone is not going to feel appreciated. Someone is going to feel like they have been neglected. And so there's also a lack of response. So you will probably see a weak nod when you're trying to have a conversation with your spouse, when you're trying to express yourself or wanting a vibrant discussion. They might murmur something, or they might speak under their breath. That shows disinterest. And also there is invasion of personal space. And when that happens, you need to remove yourself from that situation. So let's talk about the wisdom keys to wholeness in nonverbal communication. Here are wisdom keys to improve nonverbal communication. You know already what I am going to say. You know that God will do what? Change us first before he changes the situation. So we have figured out that there is distance between our husbands and us, right? And so we need to create an environment of closeness. And so it begins with us first. And so you need to smile from time to time. I know. You might need to go out to a neutral place so that you can connect again, right? In that neutral place, it could be a cup of coffee somewhere, or probably lunch or dinner somewhere. You can ask open-ended questions. One of the questions that I find helpful is this: how would you like your life to be in the next 3 years? And see if you're included in that. Okay? So ask open-ended questions. Be helpful. Iron your partner's clothes. Remove their plate from the table. Cook a good meal. Help also to wash their car or something like that. Whatever it is, just be helpful to create an environment of closeness. You can also incorporate your kids in creating this environment of closeness. Make an effort to enjoy your kids' events together. You can have some meals together. You can order takeout and have some meals together. And when I say some, because it's busy out here. And probably you can only have one meal during the weekend together. And that's better than nothing. You can gather your kids and take them to the grocery store and buy his favorite snacks. And also, when you're having conversations with each other, stay neutral. Don't be so closed-minded, and be open-minded to hear what he's saying, what he's thinking about. It doesn't mean that you agree. You can agree to disagree, but just stay open-minded because you're trying to create that environment of closeness. So when you do meet with God about what's going on in your marriage, what's going on in the house, and you ask him to intervene regarding poor communication, you can pray a prayer such as this. Lord, may your spirit of love reign in the words we speak so that we don't wound one another by poor communication, both verbally and non-verbally. Okay, with God's guidance and God's wisdom to wholeness, believe that you will be able to strengthen your marriage. Well, I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.